Hello, everybody. Thank you again for coming to the second Agora Talk for today. We can do docs. It's good to do docs. It's even better to do docs together. We will see what we mean by this, what this initiative is, and why we're launching it today. I'm very happy to present this wonderful panel of speakers, old and new friends alike, and also our own head of Agora, Angeliki Vergou. I will pass on the floor now to Alex Siriaev, who will make the introductions, and then we'll delve into this discussion together. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy.
Thank you, Thanos. Let me introduce our panelists for today. We shall start with Thomas Kaske, producer from Germany, Talal Afifi, Sudan Film Factory director, Nadia Tenstedt, Dog Industry, Leipzig, and Angeliki Vergou, our host who hosting us these wonderful days here in Thessaloniki, the head of industry program. We are meeting here to discuss a very important topic, which we as documentary filmmakers and many of our colleagues are facing or about to face in the nearest future, unfortunately. I myself have worked the last 10 years as the head of the Baltic to Black Sea Documentary Network. It is an organization for documentary filmmakers from the post-Soviet region and Eastern Europe. And we were facing this in our everyday work, how filmmakers from the countries like Ukraine, which was under the war already then, or Belarus, under these terrible dictatorship, or the country with very low economical capacity, the filmmakers are suffering from absence of funds. They couldn't find money to make films, although they had a lot of interesting and important stories to tell. And at the same time, they were facing some kind of humiliation when they tried to start collaborations with the so-called established producers in Europe or somewhere else. We have been facing these situations when, great names from big countries in Europe meeting, a refugee filmmaker from Belarus who doesn't have any money or even doesn't have a passport, a valid passport already, living in Poland illegally, proposing a wonderful, strong topic to a French producer, let's say. And the French producer is asked, how much money can you raise in Belarus to run the co-production? So, I mean, many of our colleagues really don't understand the context and what is happening in the documentary film industry today. Could you please put the map on the screen? So this is the territory of my experience. I mean, we're looking at Europe. And if we look at Eastern and Central Europe, we can see that definitely there is something in common or becoming something in common in these two groups of countries. Even, I don't know, maybe a decade ago or maybe 20 years ago, I mean, we were speaking about the transfer of democracy values from Western Europe to Eastern Europe, and also the transfer of the documentary skills from Eastern Europe from Western Europe to Eastern Europe. So today we have the situation which looks like this. We will look at the green countries. This is the post-Soviet countries. I mean, today, there are 2 pure dictatorships, 4 emerging democracies. There is censorship, corruption, and nepotism in each country, even in the emerging democracies. There are ongoing wars, 6 occupied territories and regions in 4 countries, and 1 smoldering social protest, which I don't know if it exists anymore or not in Belarus. I mean, there are many filmmakers who are in exile or refugees, but there is strong commitment to tell stories from those filmmakers. At the same time, there is a huge international focus on this region and skillful local filmmakers who really can do international co-productions. I mean, I can proudly say that in Ukraine today I can meet much more skilled filmmakers who know how to run co-productions with several European countries, how to apply to various funds, find solutions, be creative, even in fundraising for doing documentary films. So if we will look at this yellow group of countries in the Central and Eastern Europe, I mean, they all are European Union members. But we are observing the democratic backsliding. I mean, you can say that in Poland maybe situation has improved, but I can tell you that If the elections took place today, most of the people would vote again for the far-right politicians in Poland, unfortunately. So this is the tendency that we are facing. We can say that this is the collapse of the rule of law, also corruption and nepotism, upsurge of populism and nationalism, limitations of the freedom of expression, violation of minority rights, humanitarian crisis on the borders, not only Polish-Belarusian, but also, I mean, now in the Baltic countries as well. But it is a rich documentary tradition in these countries. Low production capacity of independent critical docs at the same time, and many refugee filmmakers as well. So this is the region where we are working. What is the main source of these problems that we are facing? They are political, mostly political. Even the financial problems, they are caused by the political problems. And we are facing, as I said, the backslide, and we are facing the return of the far-right politicians back to power. And it is happening not only in the countries like Hungary, where it has happened many years ago. Now it is Slovakia. I mean, look what is happening now with the elections in Romania. Even in Sweden, where I come from, where when everyone thinks that everything is so wonderful and perfect and excellent and a lot of money and all people are smart and kind. I mean, we also got the new government a few years ago who told to us at B2B Doc, we don't need to spend any money at those strange countries which are in the post-Soviet region, outside of Ukraine, of course. So, I mean, this is the tendency that we are facing, especially paying attention to what is happening on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean today. So, so our discussion has to pay attention to how to work, how documentary filmmakers can keep working in these conditions. I mean, how can we find solutions, especially those of us who are already now displaced or refugees? Because many of our colleagues, unfortunately, can become displaced or can become refugees at some point. So we have to get prepared. But right now we will start with Talal, who came from Sudan. I mean, when you see this picture of the Eastern and Central Europe, I mean, can you see or can you compare this picture to what is happening in your region? I mean, do you have any funds in Sudan where filmmakers can openly apply for money, or maybe there are some alternatives for those who are in their position?
Yeah, so thank you, Alex. Welcome, everybody. Regarding Sudan, I have to make like a quick background. Sudan, when we started in 2010, when we started Sudan Film Factory, we came after a long gap, a gap of filmmaking, a gap of distribution and screening. This had to do with the Islamic regime, which was taking over since the early 90s. And even more since the 80s, since the influence of the political Islam began, all arts and cultural activities began to step back. Cinema was the most sensitive sector because it was fully dependent on the government funds. In 2010, it was a bit possible to maneuver and to find like alternative initiatives to work alternatively because of switching from the analog to the digital. So it made it possible like to find our ways to work in cheaper ways, lower production, and like what we may say underground or guerrilla filmmaking methods. What we can say is that Sudanese cinema, Sudanese filmmaking has a very good potential, but it couldn't till now create its community, its supporting community. We don't have governmental funds in Sudan. We seek funds from outside Sudan, from cultural funds, from foundations, but it's also a challenge because we living in Sudan, we are under the embargoes of the European Union and the the US embargoes and the UN embargoes. So actually, we work against the community traditions, and we work against the government, and we work against the international community. All these are challenges. It's like a triangle of challenges. We try to get access, most of our access to funds is through the regional funds like AFAQ and Al Mawrid and Doha Film Institute, but it's always tough to find larger funds from, for example, any EU foundation or from a foundation from the US like Ford or name it. And it's also, if we got these funds, it's also a challenge to get the money in to Sudan, because we are out of the financial system, the international financial system. Now, since 2 years, we have this war. So most of these Sudanese young filmmakers had to relocate themselves. Most of them are in East Africa, in Uganda and in Kenya. Some are in North Africa, in Egypt, and others are in the Gulf, and a few of them are in Europe. So they are scattered now, and I don't know how it will be working in the coming years. This is a very new situation for us. How are we going to approach funds, production funds? I don't know how we are going to do this, especially because of in this situation we have also the issue of legalizing our situation as individuals. Most of them are now asylum seekers, refugees in different places. So it's now a new diaspora situation since the 2 years.
We have to make a workshop for the Belarusian and Sudanese filmmakers so that they can exchange their knowledge. I mean, how to work in these conditions. No, really. I mean, we are now having already filmmakers who are suffering all this, and I mean, looking for solutions. And we are having filmmakers who are about to suffer it. Thomas, you have been working with producers and filmmakers from the so-called low production capacity countries who probably don't have any access to the local funds. How do you solve the co-production formats working with them?
So maybe I have to tell a little backstory, like how I came to production. And I worked as a junior producer for a Berlin-based company, and I acquired a documentary through the Robert Bosch initiative, which doesn't exist anymore, from Algeria. And then I was teaching at the university, and the director called me and said, like, hey, I guess, because it's same problem in Algeria with as in Sudan, they got Doha funding, but the money couldn't enter Algeria. So we, the German company, decided, okay, we have it on our accounts, and when it comes to shooting, we will find ways to get the money into Algeria. And then the director called me and said, like, hey, I think they are closing the shop, and I think my money is gone. And exactly that happened. And then I felt like, I mean, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't my company, but still I felt like, okay, let's try everything, you get the rights back. That's how I founded my own company, actually to save this film. And from the get-go, there were not so many solutions from Germany. I mean, traditionally, there's no Algeria and France is kind of this natural co-production scheme. So we ended up with also Goethe Institute, Friedrich Ebert, like, you know, like little money here. I kind of, in Thessaloniki, I met people from Al Jazeera documentary channel, and this is how we kind of, it's also a full circle moment a little bit for me. So yeah, so this was kind of my first experience with my first feature, and it started with a German company kind of took advantage of something which they didn't even apply it. You know, they didn't apply it for the fund. They took the money, closed the shop, and said like, and actually they also wanted to be credited as main producers, which was crazy. Anyhow, that was my first kind of, oh, this is how you run things. I'm still learning. So I thought, okay, I want to do things different. And that's why I'm like very eager in this kind of, the ethics of co-production. How do you transfer these kind of power dynamics in like also co-production treatments in contracts? And most of the time, if it's filmmakers from lower capacity countries, and they didn't have like funding to do the films, but they were researching the film by themselves since 3 years. They have the access. They were shooting already. It's all there. I always said to myself, okay, this, you don't come with nothing. This is, you can, it's painful, but you can put a number on your work, you know, and then you enter with the ferals in a production, co-production scheme. So it means you have rights. And if the film makes money, this is also your percentage. And this is what I kind of practice in different constellation and films. And the last one was a Mozambican film. I co-produced with my French co-producer, so it was 3 main producers and 3 additional European minor co-producers. So it was kind of a puzzle to make a film happen, which also no big European funds were kind of interested, but a lot of international. And the budget was I guess we ended up with 350,000, which is a good amount for a Mozambican film. But it needed 6 co-producers. And like Fund Norway, Itva Fund Netherlands, you know, like you do the puzzle. And also in these negotiations, it was of course super hard to stand the ground that the Mozambican main producer and director still owns the final cut and the rights. And there, what we did is that me, the French, and the Mozambican co-producer kind of shared, we kind of co-delegate produced. So together, we are stronger than the other 3 combined. And this is how we are kind of, you know, it's not that the other 3 wanted to grab more, but this is how we, at least legally, we have a setup where we can navigate and we can ensure that the film will be made from a Mozambican perspective and not through, like, I don't know, because there's German TV involved and, well, yeah.
But when you were speaking to your colleagues, I mean, from Mozambique and from the other countries, I mean, have they been discussing with you or thinking, I mean, what shall we do? How can we change our situation? How can we influence I don't know, the political system or the system of film funding if it doesn't exist? I mean, did they understood that there is a need for that, that it is not, it cannot last forever like that?
I mean, first of all, I guess, first you want to survive for your project and you go from deadline to deadline and you figure it out, and the small options you have, you figure it out. But I know that each director is actively working in networks in Mozambique, in Algeria. There is a Ministry of Culture and they can give funding, but it was also stopped for 3 years, no matter, nobody know why. And this is like, you have the national fights, and then the other fight is like, we know we have to enter with European co-producers, but how do we then structure it that, you know, there's not one producer coming, taking all the rights, and actually we lose the director's cut or any kind of editorial saying. And I guess that was most of the time the bigger issues. And I know that with so many people here in the room, we are discussing these topics, and I also discussed that topic 2 years ago here, sitting on the same sofa, so things are discussed.
Talal, you told that the Sudanese filmmakers are not going to organize themselves somehow, they're not thinking about that. Don't they see the necessity of that? Or what is the problem? Just to organize themselves to struggle for their rights, I mean.
After the revolution in 2019, there was an attempt like to make like filmmakers network, but it didn't happen because of the coup in 2021. So they were not able to make this network. But I believe now with this new reality, there is a need and a demand for this, and maybe something will happen in the few coming months. They should be working on this.
We also here can maybe explore the experience of our colleagues from Ukraine and from Georgia. Because, I mean, in those countries, I mean, the situation is also, I mean, there is a fund, there is a national fund, anyone can apply, but nobody of filmmakers would like to apply because it means, you know, the reputation. because well, Ukraine is the country at war, and also the state funds are controlled by, how should I put it, not to make wrong things, to the people who are at power and would like to channel all the money into their own pockets. In Georgia, the situation is also like that. There is a National Film Center, apply for money, but 95% of the Georgian filmmakers, they refuse to apply. What makes them act like that? That they have united, that they have gathered together, that they have organized themselves. 5, 7 years ago, it was not like that. Everyone preferred to be, single and by him or herself, and I mean, thinking that I have to struggle for my own rights. Being a part of a bigger company is not the best solution. Now it is vice versa. So organizing ourselves, engaging initiatives, and accumulating the forces from different parts is one of the solutions how we can survive in this situation. So, Dog Together initiative. Nadia and Angelika, you came with this idea. Could you please explain how it was born?
Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences, which help, I think, set the scene for why we need Dog Together, or why we think that we need Dog Together, because we really need to pull forces together and act in solidarity. This is how this initiative was born. We were sitting together over breakfast and we were complaining about the state of this world, and we wanted to do something. And it's a very short answer to your complex question, but I'm going to hand over to Angeliki to explore this a little bit more.
So yes, we were having breakfast together at another market, and because we are already partners, we already support some filmmakers. We were navigating through what each market does, how we do it, and then we said, but you are doing this, we are doing that. The market that we were at that time was doing something different. So there are all these fragments, all these little initiatives that exist through the markets and the festivals. And we thought that this is not enough. We need to do something more. We need to gather together, and with quantity comes power. So we decided to do this initiative, which we then started discussing how it would look like, and decided to launch it here in Thessaloniki, and then basically mostly for people to know about it, so that we can attract whoever is interested in joining us, because we don't want to do it alone, we want to do it together with everyone that is interested, and basically have an umbrella where filmmakers that are either in exile or at risk, or deciding to stay at their own countries but without having access to national funding, can be supported and brought to the markets, basically to pitch their ideas, to find funders, or to help them with residencies, consultancy sessions, anything they would need to be able to find, to basically make their films and bring them to the audiences. And yeah, so we have many, maybe we can put the bullet point that we have made. We have some ideas already on how we want this initiative to function. Thank you, Nadia. And maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for this. I just wanted to stress that we feel often, or at least I can say this for myself, a little bit fragmented. We all do things, like every festival, every market is trying to find support for one filmmaker, for a delegation, for like some insulated projects. But what we feel is really important is that we coordinate our strength or our ambitions to help and to organize in solidarity. So this is really what we are calling for here. Exactly. And our bullet points help us to explain what we want to do and what we have been doing. So, you know, I mean, it starts at very simple things. It's totally tough to get visas for people from the countries that you have mentioned and many more countries that we haven't even touched upon. We want to, you know, share experiences on what works on a national level. How can we improve this process? Going back one step, sorry for the confusion, but this year, 25, we are really trying to identify filmmakers, to talk with filmmakers, to make focus groups with filmmakers, to really see and talk about their needs, because we often assume what people need. We need to also talk to the people that are coming to our markets, and this is one thing that we want to do this year already. And the second thing is that we are planning a think tank or several think tanks where we bring together different parties, different organizations, several markets, individuals, funders, to talk about how we can bring this initiative off the ground together.
Basically, this year it's about lobbying and about identifying partners and filmmakers. Also, what you said before, that we need to bring the Sudanese and the Belarusians and exchange ideas. We would really like to do peer-to-peer exchange, because there are so many people out there doing documentaries with resilience, their only force, and by finding good partners. So there needs to be an exchange of that and how we can move on. We can say that, as we saw in the map, that more and more countries may be needing this information and inspiration. So yes, the whole goal is to identify everyone, and basically, since also funding is getting shrinked and moved into maybe defense politics, we need to create our own cultural defense and
the liberation
yes, and
front.
organize, basically,
well, yeah.
yes.
So I mean, yes. There are so many filmmakers. There are so many films produced today. We are considering documentary films to be a tool for democracy fighting, for protection of the rights, for the promotion of the values that most of us share. But do really documentary films play such an important role in the societies? I mean, you are smiling, but I mean, on the map that I showed you previously, I mean, those countries where the far rights are taking over, we have so many experienced documentary filmmakers. There are so many strong documentary films have been produced and distributed. There are human rights film festivals there, and there are funds. But still, these political tendencies, they're happening. I mean, one thing is to raise funds and support the filmmakers to produce strong, important films. But how to make those films work for the audiences? What do you think? What could be the solutions for that? Maybe our, Thomas, you maybe have any ideas about that.
Definitely don't have a solution. But I guess what is super important for me is also that when I observed this with especially European public TV, it's always linked to institutions and government spending and tax money at the end. And at least from a German perspective, and if we are talking about this initiative, it's also about bringing a lot of people on board, not just filmmakers and festivals. And also they have shrinking budgets, but I think if you talk about bringing back democratic narratives in the public media, more or less, at least in Germany and Europe, we have a lot of public television. But when I see how they react towards the projects I bring them, I kind of get a lot of feedback of very nationalist thinking, small thinking. My local audience doesn't know where Mozambique is. It's like, well, teach them. That's your job, more or less. But I think, you know, I mean, this is one part of the problem, but I guess also we have to bring in a lot of commissioning editors, people from TV, maybe also streamer, who knows, I don't know them, but yeah.
Yes, everybody demands a responsibility from the documentary filmmakers that we have to spread the word. But I mean, those people who are keeping the channels, the broadcasting channels. I mean, okay. I mean, this kind of they force us to think that the audience is uneducated and degraded. I mean, what are the correct words? But these are the people who come and vote finally. I mean, so we have to influence the minds. I mean, our enemies, they are working perfectly on that. I mean, but we are still waiting for a miracle, but not waiting anymore. And what I want to say, I mean, how can we engage the distributors of the documentary content into this initiative? I mean, how can we force them? Because I mean, even in the minor issues, as you said. Also, I see at the pitching sessions all those, you know, the decision makers from channels and funds coming and keep repeating, come with the rough cut, come with the. I mean, our filmmakers whom we have to support, they need support now at the very beginning. They need some money, very small money, just to launch a project. They need 5, maybe 10,000 euros just to make the first steps and establish contacts. I mean, they cannot produce a proper rough cut and then come to your wonderful TV channel and get it sold. How can we influence the minds of the distributors?
With
your initiative.
Yes. So, okay, one way would be that we make them take part in the think tanks. They need to be part of it. Everybody needs to be part of it, all sectors, the whole ecosystem. We need to listen to the filmmakers, we need to listen to the broadcasters, why they want the rough cut, why we need to change a little bit, not a little bit, we need to change the system. The system is broken, and we all realize this. Funders realize this. They understand that they need a new paradigm. They understand that this is not working anymore. But if we don't sit down all together and talk about it, then we will never find a solution, or we will never experiment, and maybe something would work. So yes, I think everyone is discussing this, but maybe not in the open. So maybe this is an opportunity now to start discussing this in the open. I know that there are think tanks. I know there are small groups discussing this. It's a thing. So people need to acknowledge it, and people need to start thinking differently. And in terms of getting to the audiences, we may have to play dirty, like our opponents, let's say. We need to use the tools that they use, and we need to bring the documentaries or anything that has to do with culture to the masses, one way or another. Because right now they are looking at their phones and they're looking at the platforms, and the quality cultural offering is very small. And younger generations, if they are not already, if they haven't already waken up and haven't stopped doing the social media, which they exist out there, a small amount, but they do, most of the times they're on their phone. So we need to hack the system, if you know any hackers.
Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, the head of the Great October Socialist Revolution in Russia, who created this phrase "culture to the masses," also said that cinema is the most important weapon for us. So for us, cinema is also a very important weapon. Talal, how do you think? I mean, when you hear what Angeliki and Nadia tells us, their suggestions. How do you think your colleagues in Sudan and maybe in other countries of Africa could be included into that initiatives? What could be your contribution and what can we get back from that?
I believe that filmmakers in Sudan and in the region, in East Africa, North Africa, they need such initiatives. We need exposure, more exposure. We need networking. We need more opportunities to show the world what we want to say, to show our narratives. Because our narratives have been hacked before. So now we need to show our narratives, so we need platforms.
We have hackers you've been looking for. Yeah.
And yes, we need, as you said, to shake the system. We need to change the editing of this catalog. We need to bear in mind that there are other people with us in the room. So all this dynamic, all this power relation, all this ecosystem should be shaken and should be changed. So such initiatives maybe can be like a starter for this, for making this this way through or this breakthrough.
Yes, and also, I mean, we are speaking about the deficit of various inputs to keep documentary film industry floating and also changing the minds. But this is a question of money at the end of the day. I mean, some of us say that there is no money, like the decision makers, and we are understanding that the budgets are shrinking, and I mean, this is also very terrifying. But on the other hand, we have money. We have money in the European Union. So probably the question is not that we don't have money for festivals of film production or the distribution, but the question is how they are distributed. So this is the question that I am putting to my colleagues who can provide some kind of change. I mean, have any of you ever seen those bureaucrats in Brussels who are sitting and allocating funds for media program and other programs? I mean, have you ever talked to them? Have you ever asked them about their vision? Or who is protecting our interests when the budget is being formed in Brussels? Do we have anyone who can raise the question and say, no, this money is not enough, or no, these bureaucratic rules are not functioning anymore? I mean, the question is, again, how we, the documentary film industry, can influence the process of political decision making, at least in Europe. How can we influence that? So we should not expect that there will be, a smart and clever and kind-hearted politician who can come and satisfy all our needs. Nobody will do that for that. I mean, we have to do that.
Yeah, I think, again, it's about forming coalitions to lobby. And, only in a coalition are we strong and can be heard. That's happening in different forms and fashions. There's many markets that are supported by Creative Europe that have actually, under the leadership of Thessaloniki, formed a coalition. And we are exactly trying to do this, to be heard in Brussels.
Basically, we did, in collaboration with other markets, we did 3 think tanks in 2023, and the results were announced in Cannes. And through that, we understood it was about the future of European markets. It was about where are we going, what are we doing. So at the end of the think tank, we realized that we need to work together because European markets were traditionally antagonistic, also in the media applications for funding. But then we were partnering anyway with many of them. So we realized that we need to lobby all together, to have one voice, and to be able to voice concerns in terms of how things are changing. So we have created FAME, which is it's the Film and Audiovisual Markets of Europe. kind of catchy, so we hope it catches on. But we are like at 26 markets right now. Not all of them supported by media, so that also good because we are inclusive and we have other concerns besides media. But yeah, this is our first step as well. So with this, we want to lobby to the European Council. Everybody has their own contact in their home country that are speaking to the European Council, and we need to organize there as well.
But while we are in the process of, creating this initiative and organizing the coalition, which can deliver probably the long-term results at some point, but the short-term results, what could be done right now for the filmmakers who would like to come with their project to a market or to a pitching session? How do you think you could support them, or what would be your suggestion to the colleagues at the other markets?
Well, we think we need to waive all submission fees for filmmakers from countries in crisis. Submission fees, for projects submissions, and then also participation fees. And I think we have tried to organize supports from partner organizations for travel grants, for accommodation. This is what each and every one of us is doing, and I think we have to do this even stronger and in a more, again, coordinated manner, trying to identify organizations that are supportive and share that knowledge.
One very important issue are the visas. We every time that we want to have a filmmaker over, it takes months. We need to act very quickly. Sometimes we don't have the time to prepare the invitations letters on time. It takes a lot of time, and we are disappointed in the end because many times, like also this year, we couldn't have filmmakers with us because of the visa issue. So we need to partner maybe with legal organizations. So we need to find new ways. And then I wanted to say something more, but now I forgot.
Yeah, but yes, I can tell that from our experience working with the Belarusian filmmakers, they got a great support from the human rights lawyers. Mm-hmm. The Belarusian human rights lawyers relocated to Poland. They were doing fantastic things. These are the people who are lobbying the interests in the government, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, providing people without documents possibilities to leave the country. So there are experiences that could be shared. Yes, Nadia.
Exactly, and that's also on our agenda to try and pull together resources, like information on resources. What is out there already, and what can be accessed and how?
Additionally, resources and having also online and hybrid events, because if someone cannot attend, then maybe they can at least participate online and have meetings and hear talks like this. We are recording this, we are uploading it on our Eventival page, and people can access it that have accreditations. We give online accreditations for free. And yeah, basically, as institutions, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. There are other initiatives out there. It's not like we are the first doing something for at-risk filmmakers, but we feel that Doc Together is a very good title because we need to pull everyone together to make a change.
Speaking about markets, Talal, I wanted to ask you, have you been pitching your projects at some European markets or pitching sessions? When you were meeting the decision makers, what was your feeling? What was their attitude to you as a filmmaker and to a project that you are doing?
Yeah, I have to say most of them were nice. We did pitch our last film, last documentary, Khartoum, which will be screened here also. We pitched it at the some were very tough, like the BBC, very tough, and some were very open, like ITFA. So it's there is no one, I can't give one say. But back to what you were discussing, I think that what we are talking about is more like we need to change the cultural policy. It's a cultural policy thing. So talking about cultural policy, we have to build a front not only of filmmakers. Filmmakers alone can't do this. We need filmmakers with journalists, with activists, with NGO people, with lawyers, with diplomats, with decision makers, parliamentarians, etc. We have to build this front very quickly. Talking about visas, unfortunately, every Sudanese, every African entering any European embassy in our countries, you are considered an asylum seeker until you can prove the opposite. And this is sad. So we know that there are business visas, there are medical visas. We have to find a way to find or to launch or establish cultural visas. We have to push for this. And this should be done by this front, by this coalition of lawyers and parliamentarians, writers, etc. So yeah, it's a big battle with different tracks, and but it has to start.
Yeah, so this is also a question how we can influence the politicians so that they would adopt the laws that would suit us. But also, I mean, oh, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, involving them. So I dream to see a film festival not only having guests, filmmakers, having guests from all these sectors. I would like to see a lawyer in a film festival, to see politicians in a film pitch. So this is the way maybe how we can involve them and to bring our voice away and to move a little bit their ground. Yeah.
And we have reinvent the pitching system probably as well. Yeah, and yeah, why I was asking you about the attitude of the decision makers, because I mean I also know some filmmakers from the so-called low production capacity countries, and I mean, and they are a little bit, you know, it's also a little bit, you know, humiliating for them that they are considered to be, you know, like from the low production capacities, and there are some so that they are considered to be like incapable of developing their projects without, you know, this extra help.
Like Greece.
Yeah. So I mean, how to find this, you know, what could be the solution here so that they don't feel themselves so much humiliated, but at the same time give us the opportunity to provide help and assistance for them, but in some kind of decent way. Or I mean, you understand what I mean?
Can I comment?
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Because I think it's very linked to discussions we had in Leipzig at the DocSafe roundtables. That actually, at my table, it was also about, I think, power dynamics. We really, all filmmakers were kind of fed up by how the pitching and how the markets are structured. And I'm not looking at you guys, you are improving and you yeah, no, I mean, not improving, you're also good, but it's like, you know, you're aware of it, and this is the thing. And it's actually to also give out manuals to not the one who are pitching, you know, also good. You know how to pitch and you should present yourself, but also you should know how to give feedback from the other side. This is maybe even much more crucial, because how often, and today I pitched a project where the protagonist died while crossing the Middle Sea, and we still get comments where you can say, oh, there are a lot of migrant films. You're allowed to say that because it's true, but say something before, like, I'm sorry to hear that, or something like that, you know. And I understand all these positions, but I think there should be kind of at least also a discussion how to give feedback, especially when you bring people who are not, who don't feel comfortable or who are new to this market and don't know the in and outs of social and, I don't know, like the roots of the things we are doing here. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, I would like to say it's not much about humiliation, what you said. It's also more maybe about democratization. For example, from my country, and Arab countries, more than 27 countries in Arab region, we have to write in English, we have to write in French, we have to write in Spanish, but our language doesn't exist. So we don't have this full potential to pitch our films. So these submissions, there should be a way that I can express myself in a good way, and it's your job to have a translator or to get closer to my part. You are the one who has the funds. I can't do everything. I can't direct and pitch and seek for a co-producer and fill submissions and talk in English and attend Zoom meetings. It's too much. And we need a kind of existence. And language is a part of this existence. Having everything in English, so the ones who talk better English are the ones who get more chances. And this has to be changed.
And also maybe we have to, well, I don't know if it could be done, but I mean also, I mean, when a market invites decision makers, I mean, for many of them all the travels are covered, and I mean the lunches and dinners are covered, and I mean, because I was facing once the situation that, I mean, I met my colleagues from one so-called low production capacity countries at some very big market in Europe some years ago, and they approached to me on the third or fourth day and said, listen, is it possible if we can come to your hotel room and take a shower? Then I got to know that they went by car. They drove 2,000 kilometers in the car, and they slept all those three days in the car on the parking slot because they couldn't afford a hotel, even a hostel. It was so terrible. And at the same time, when I was watching them, you know, talking to the decision makers whose travel, I mean, they have the salary, their travels are covered, and all the other stuff. Of course, they are very important people because they can push the project. And the question is not just don't pay for them. The question is how we can adjust their attitude to filmmakers, because I also see that the attitude of many decision makers is changing exactly. But I mean, still we have those whose attitude could be improved. Yes, please.
So the attitude is changing because they don't have the big pockets anymore. One. Two, just to say that we've been always, Thessaloniki and Agora always was paying for the projects to attend. We do whatever we can. It's not for every member of the project, but we do give a hotel room. It can be a double hotel room, and we can cover it. And we offer some amount for them to attend. And of course, lunches and everything else, when we have, it's for everyone the same. So there is no distinction in accreditations, let's say. It's like you have the forum accreditation or whatever. The other thing that we changed, it's small things, but as you said, we are improving, and thank you for noticing. The other thing is that we did change the panel situation. It was in another venue, and there was a panel, and the projects were pitching from downstairs, looking up at the expert gods. So now we changed it, and everyone is in the sofa, and it's more civilized. Also, we included in the panel and feedback producers. Not only commissioning editors, of course sales agents, but also producers that could be co-producing the projects that are pitching, and they have access to their funds. So some changes like this, and of course we can discuss more changes. I'm happy to.
Just to second this, Doc Leipzig is also trying to provide a very rather level playing field, you know, disregarding hierarchy, making this a welcoming space where everybody is treated equally, so we hope. And then there are organizations, you mentioned it, like DocSafe, like the Documentary Association of Europe, who are really also working from the outside on changing, you know, exactly those power dynamics. And I think, again, we have to work together on being even better at this.
And in In addition, just because of the commissioning editors and the broadcasters, I did have my comment before, but there are newer generations now coming up, so they are much more aware of what's going on, and gatekeeping is out, I would say, not as much. DocSafe would say differently. But I think there are big efforts to stop gatekeeping. So,
before we turn to the audience and let them put questions to our panelists, I have another one issue to discuss with you, which I'm also very curious about. And I mean, also, I mean, there is an unexplored field of money in the so-called NGOs, which are working with different issues like, you know, human rights and democracy and the freedom of speech. There are a lot of them. But as far as I see, many of them don't really know how to work with documentary filmmakers or with filmmakers. They know how to, they can spend money on a journalistic project maybe, or for a program. Can we, I mean, you've been working at, you said the German fund, what was that, Hubert Boll?
Friedrich Ebert,
yes.
in Algeria, and also Goethe Institute.
Yeah, I mean, so you know how these people in the NGOs, they're thinking. Is it possible to turn their way of thinking and their process of decision making to our side, maybe engage them somehow into the document, make them interested, and so that they can learn how they can cooperate with us?
Yeah, I think this is, I'm not the right person to answer that, because sorry, but that was the Goethe Institute and the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung in Algeria, so I was introducing the director, and then they came, and surprisingly, they had a lot of money. A lot, I mean 12,000 euros, but I expected 7 or something. But it really depends how big is their budget, and their budgets are also shrinking. But I guess another topic is this whole impact production, and I know that the philanthropist culture is totally different in Europe than in America, where of course you hear stories from impact production budgets in America which are triple as much as the budget of the film, and then we all get like, ooh, we want that. But I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Europe we don't have that culture yet kind of installed.
Yeah, but I mean, this is what we can work with, because I mean, this is not a question of money. I mean, as I said, even 5,000 would be good for for a filmmaker who doesn't have any money at all. But I mean, if an NGO gives money, I mean, they tell, we give you money, you give us the film, we keep the rights. I mean, they don't really understand how the industry is functioning, and I mean, sometimes maybe we don't need a huge amount of money, but a small amount just to make a kick out for the project. No. So how to work with NGOs, how to educate them?
Can't answer.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Okay, first of all, two points. We had an Agora workshop on Sunday about impact producing. Gugi Gumilang was the mentor there, and he can say more when we pass the mic. But I understand that impact producing is another beast of its own. And you need to educate, actually, filmmakers how to reach NGOs, maybe. So, but what I wanted to say is that we've been doing markets for more than 20 years, and we needed to basically educate and train producers to co-produce. So that's why this space was created. So now we need to, as I was saying, we need to change the paradigm. So now we know how to co-produce with each other, mostly. Maybe not fairly, so this is another issue, but now we need to train everybody else how to co-produce with filmmakers. So we need to open the net.
Changing the paradigm and changing also the vector. I mean, we have to avoid this, you know, old stereotype that we have, you know, established clever, smart producers in the Western, let's say Europe, who can exchange their knowledge with those newcomers from the strange countries. So this has to be changed, of course. But yeah, so I mean, we can have some time for the questions from the oh, so many hands Gogi, I told you don't sit behind my back because I will not see you.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna comment a bit about something. Thank you for the talk. It was really interesting, like to explore like a lot of multi-layer problem that we have right now. So I'm working for Indocs. It's a non-profit based in Indonesia that we are covering actually 27 countries in Asia, and 23 of them we don't have any national funding, national support, and so on. So what we do, I mean, but at the same time, I think we have to be realistic as well. Like we still like depend on the Western world power, not American and Europe. So that's also like we also have a lot of partnership. For instance, I think like to be realistic, the most effective partnership now, like for our filmmakers, is actually Doc Toolbox, because it's really curated, and then they come to the big market, but they are guided by the festival itself, like to be in the market, and that curated like who to meet and so on before like just jumping like to the market. And that's like really important like for the, I mean, for us, I think like we are quite lucky because like we got support by a lot of foundation that like we can also support the travel and so on. But I think at the same time, the biggest challenge like for the first time filmmaker like to be in this kind of market, like they don't know what to do. And that's actually like the one of the most effective way. Like, so I hope that like if you have like the designated program for underrepresented countries, filmmaker, how to navigate and so on and so on, it will be like super helpful. And that's it, like what we already have like 3 times, like 3 years partnership with them, and then the feedback, that's like the most amazing way. That's the first thing. And like the second thing about the impact, so yes, this is like both sides actually. So like the expectation of the filmmaker that they want to have like to make the creative documentary, and the other side, the NGO, they have the expectation like to have more like maybe like factual or like the journalistic documentary, maybe also like either not also like in the feature length form, has to be like really short, and so on and so on. But this is always like the nature. So at Indocs we also like create, it's called like Just Feature Lab, which is combination between Impact Lab and Impact Symposium. So we invite basically the filmmakers. We identify also like the NGOs, international civil society organization, who are using audiovisual to use this medium like to campaign basically. So if we start like from the scratch, like for the organization who doesn't work with this medium, it's gonna be hard. So the idea like to be in this platform first, like how, because there's a lot of like form of documentary that we can use. And for me, I still believe that creative documentary is like the best way to use impact, because you have like so many layers, and then it's easier like also to get to the targeted audience, because you build like this empathy, which is like easier like to change the mind. So this is how it works, and then this is gonna be like our 5th year, and we have like more partner like who ask to us, hey, do you have like the filmmaker like that we can work with, like in like doing climate change, for instance. I think like this kind of like initiative, like just giving the place first, like to know like each other expectation, because we have to educate the filmmaker, but we have to educate also the NGO. So this is like the really important thing. Okay, that's.
Thank you. Yes, Mario? Oh, there is an, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, Adam Popliński from Pitch the Doc. So first of all, I would like to correct you, Alex, that it's not true that if the election in Poland was today, the right wing would win the election. So that's not true. However, I have to confirm that we having access at Pitch the Doc to several hundreds of Central and Eastern European projects. They are very, very smart in organizing the production schemes, and co-productions. But for the third thing that I would like to say, that we would love to join the initiative, speech the doc, and we declare our will to join and to collaborate with you. And as a fourth thing, I would like to ask you, how would you see the use of online tools, as you mentioned, that could be helpful?
Yeah, thank you. And just to answer specifically to your question about online tools, I mean, we are all using them already. And in many ways, at Doc Leipzig, we host a lot of preparatory workshops ahead of the festival, and we live stream all the major pitching events, and we organize meetings after the festival for projects that couldn't come, or decision makers that couldn't come. So this is the online tools I think I was thinking of. And then, as we said, we want to create a space where people can find resources online.
Yes, and maybe hold online meetings, but this is down the line. Right now we're trying to identify what's out there, who can help, and gather information. Like the information that Gugi gave us was amazing. So yes, gathering information is the first step before we...
Yes, and also what Gugi told about, I mean, this, explaining to the newcomers how the system is, this could be perfectly done online.
Yeah, I mean, we are doing this already. Of course, this can always be improved and be done more exhaustively or bigger, but it's a very important moment for first-time filmmakers to come to an international market, and we are very aware, and thanks Gugi for pointing it out, again, that it's crucial that people feel prepared and also welcomed and safe at the place.
And we haven't done this for the documentary festival yet. We wanted to do it this year, but we ran out of time because we have 2 festivals back to back. But it is in the plans for visitors, let's say, introduction day, especially if they're coming for the first time. On the other hand, we do feel that Thessaloniki is human scale, and once you're here, it's very easy to navigate. I hope it's true. Correct me if I'm wrong. But people are to bump into each other. Everything is at the port. So we kind of realized now that we may need to have also an online session for the visitors coming for the first time. We do this for the November festival, which is the fiction festival, because we have this initiative with other markets called Launchpad, and it's with IFFR, Carlo Vivari, Locarno, Tallinn, yes, and us. And it's called Launchpad, and it's for emerging professionals in the diffusion sector, so junior sales agents and programmers and everything. So they get, for all these festivals, they get a free accreditation, and they can either come on their own expense or persuade their company to cover their expenses. Or they can participate online. So again, we do a curated program for them, and we explain how everything works, and it's a good opportunity for them to meet all together and then make new connections. So this is something that we do already, and we're gonna do it also for the documentary somehow.
Marion, please.
Thank you. So I would like to start by first saying thank you to the 2 of you and to your whole team. Because we all know that it's not like you're sitting in your festival teams and markets with a huge amount of resources and a huge amount of people, and no one asks you to do this extra effort. So I think first and foremost I would like to acknowledge this and say thank you. for starting this up. And I have a couple of comments, and I would like to start by saying, I think the element, and you mentioned it a couple of times, and also you, Talal, you were talking about the front, the United Front. And I think a large part of this initiative and the way you're also explaining it sounds to me that it is also a tool for advocacy, and to kind of advocate for things like, well, lovely funds, if you would like us to be representative, as whatever you call representative means, and have exciting projects from all over the world, then also you need to support us to get the visas for people to be able to attend. I mean, and that's been a battle, an ongoing battle in my professional practice for years and years, and I've just seen it getting worse and worse and worse and worse. One, and then the other one is like stepping out of this individualization and moving into collective practice, whereby we have all, I think, individually in our teams and in our institutions or in our initiatives found ways in which we handle certain things and how we react to problems. And sometimes if those were shared and more streamlined in a way, even though it's a very capitalistic way, then they would make much more, I mean, they would be more beneficial for everyone. So I really think that your intention of using also the first year to organize and to collect almost, if I understand you correctly, collect what is out there in terms of resources and practices, and to run these, what did you call it, like focus groups, makes a lot of sense, because I do agree, Alex, there are very many assumptions going around of how things are in reality. And as part of that, I also think that there is, from my opinion, and I would love to hear your opinion on that, there is a need for definition and clarity as well. Because what do we mean when we say a filmmaker in exile? And what do we mean with a filmmaker at risk? And how do we ensure that also these labels do not kind of create situations that are actually not a self-defining mechanism? And how do we also ensure that we don't become too simplistic and, for instance, compare the situation between people that live different realities and come from completely different geographies and assume that their situations, because there is, for instance, a war happening in their country, are the same, because they are not. They are very distinctly different. And I think, therefore, I applaud you for also, I mean, not only for taking the step and doing this extra effort, but also for approaching it with care and consideration and not jumping to conclusions.
Thank you. Any more questions? No more questions. Everything is clear. So let me thank the audience. Let me thank our panelists. It was very inspiring from my point of view. Really, I mean, it is very important that we have people who are thinking about these kind of things and who are promoting and propelling this idea. And if we will be all together, I mean, we really can achieve something and maybe overcome the dark times which will come, or maybe not. But let's stay together and let's win over everything and overcome. Thank you very much. Thank you.